All right, friends, we are streaming live again. Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. First of all, I want to thank all of my lovely Healthy Americans. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have such a great audience here on YouTube. People ask me why I'm on YouTube. Well, I am on Rumble and I am on BitChute. I don't really like that platform. I am on Brighteon. I am on Instagram. I do have a Telegram channel, but I'm never really on it. I actually don't really care for Telegram that much either. And I just want to know, friends, let me know if you can see me streaming, because I just see a big black screen here and I want to make sure that my internet is actually working. Yes, here we go. All is well. I titled this video, Job Applicants Can Refuse the Jab. I am hearing from more and more healthy Americans who are dismayed when they're applying for a job. They see right in the application and the job description, it says must become a human pincushion, must be fully a human pincushion. And so many people aren't even applying for that job. Yes, apply for that job. I'm going to take you through step by step exactly what you can do to maintain your rights to get that job. And I want to tell you at least, oh my gosh, I have a couple of interesting stories of people who were being pressured and coerced and intimidated, and they were pulling out all of the shenanigans in order to prevent that person from getting the job, which is discrimination. That's not like not hiring you because of your skin color or your age or your gender, you know, one of the two, or if you have an accent or something like that. So let me break it down for you step by step. I want you as healthy Americans to go out and be the healthy American ambassadors. I want you to share this information far and wide. It is because each individual like you and me, because we have stood up against this hogwash, that is what makes the difference. That is why these hogwashers are backing down. Now, I know they have a lot of other shenanigans up their sleeves, but they will never get away with it at the degree that they did in the beginning, because so many of us are now connected. We are educated on what's going on and we are taking action. That's why we've seen through the Healthy American, I educated so many people about standing up for their rights with their employer that we had Amtrak back down, thanks to a Healthy American that had the EEOC investigating Amtrak. And then what do we see the next day? There is a headline saying Amtrak makes the requirements optional. We had Wells Fargo be done with it. Southwest, I had thousands of Southwest employees watch my videos, and then they wrote to me and said, you saved my job, Peggy. Now, I don't fly on Southwest. I probably will never fly on Southwest. They kicked me off a couple of years ago. I'm not holding a grudge, but I just heard that it's not that good of an airlines. From the, I'll just leave it at that. So what I want to tell you is that your actions matter. And if you are applying for a job or you know someone who is, and you're seeing these job descriptions saying that you have to have proof of the jab, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. But first, let me tell you all about Noble Gold Investments. They are my longtime sponsor, and I am so grateful. We are hopping over, you probably know the website, noblegoldinvestments.com. The message they want me to share with you is that, and I have that here somewhere. I got so flummoxed with one of my previous videos that I was throwing my papers around. So the US government made it official and basically legal to make America poorer, because from now until after the next elections, the government can print as much money as it wants. And the last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. And boy, I'm feeling it in the pocketbook. You probably are as well. I cannot believe how expensive food is. Politicians are posturing as if they saved America's economy, but all they did is ensure that the US dollar gets devalued even further. There is a group of nations called BRICS, and they are working together to create a new reserve currency, which is bad news for the US dollar. And that's another one of the threats. So these threats to the US dollar are just getting stronger. Noble Gold Investments encourages you to protect yourself and your family and your future. So make sure that you hedge against this economic disaster. You can invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. And friends, if you want the physical precious metals, you can also get that as well. I want you to contact noblegoldinvestments.com to find out all of your options. So gold is the one asset that is proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all other economic threats. Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold or get your hands on this gold. So you will also get a 24 karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free when you invest with Noble Gold Investments. So go there, noblegoldinvestments.com. They're the only gold company I trust. Remember, past results are not indicative of the future, and there's always a risk of investment, but find out from them over at noblegoldinvestments.com. Friends, it seems like my life has always been about standing up for the underdog. And I'm talking about dogs and cats, because I've done a lot in animal rescue over the years. And that was when I really first understood all of the shenanigans that a lot of the local governments are doing in terms of, talking out of one side of their mouth and then perpetrating harm upon these precious dogs and cats. So I have always been standing up for what is right. I've been doing that in animal rescue, and I've been doing it for the last several years, standing up for you and your rights. And it's not difficult to understand. The powers that shouldn't be, those public serpents and those in the New World disorder, are putting pressure on employers to carry out their dirty deeds. Because the government has no legal authority to tell you to become a human pincushion. And it happened with the suffocation devices. They tried to pull a fast one on people by having the government and the health officers issue these decrees that are not laws. And I was on the front lines yelling, screaming, holding up the banner, telling people you don't have to go along with this. There is no law. This is all a bunch of hogwash, and you don't have to follow it unless you want to. You want to become a human pincushion? Go knock yourself out. You want to put on 1, 2, 3 devices, one above the other, and go for it. Just know that there is no legal authority to require you to do so. So what happened? The government has been paying employers through the CARES Act fund and the America Rescue Plan and other types of hush money, blood money that I call it. They've been giving the dollars to these employers to act as their henchmen, to act as the long arm of the law. That's another way of expressing it, to carry out the dirty deeds that the government has no authority to do. Well, guess what? These employers have no authority to do so either. I've heard every argument that they can throw out there. They'll tell you that it's for the health and safety of the other employees that you need to put yourself at risk and become a human pincushion. That's like telling you that the employer has a policy of abortion, and that if you are pregnant, if you're a pregnant woman and you come to work, that their work policy is that you must abort that growing baby because you are putting everyone else at risk of losing the precious resources of our country because of overpopulation. And if you think that's a far stretch, it's not a far stretch. During all of this hogwash, there was a state senator from, I think it was Pennsylvania, maybe it was Connecticut, fill in the blank with one of those very corrupt states that are neck and neck with California. This state assemblyman or senator actually introduced into their state legislature a bill that would require the sterilization of men after the age of 40. Yes, because the government wanted them to. Now, obviously, that was pulled out of the legislature there. But the fact is, they floated that balloon to see how people would respond. It's no different to me for an employer having a policy that you become a human pincushion. How is that any different than the employer requires you to donate a kidney against your will? How is that any different than your employer requiring you to have a tattoo, which is probably far safer than becoming a human pincushion? Speaking of pins and needles, how is that any different from your employer requiring you to sleep with your boss in order to keep your job, right? It's your body. So I understand the argument that people will say, well, you could be carrying a disease and you don't know it. I will just remind you that in our country, we have a political system based on the philosophy and the principle that you are innocent until proven guilty. You are healthy until proven sick. And by the way, you don't have to prove that you are well because there is no law against being sick. So then you'll say, well, Peggy, the suffocation device and the human pincushion, my employer has the right to require that because it's like wearing a uniform. Well, excuse me, but you take the uniform off at the end of the day. It is not a medical event putting on a uniform, all right? That is something that is superficial. You are, and your employer is bringing an argument of apples and oranges, and it doesn't hold water. I just did a video about no consent to the nasal assault, and you can use all of the principles that I explained, even though it was a medical setting. You can extrapolate those for the workplace. Your employer has no authority to tell you to do that either, even as an accommodation for you being a pureblood and not being a human pincushion. I'm going to explain exactly why. Now, many of you healthy Americans have been with me from the beginning, and you, as I say, can act as a healthy American ambassador, and you can teach people about this because it's very simple. And it is this: you have God-given rights to keep your body pure, to not participate in any medical intervention that you do not consent to. We could argue this on so many levels, but the easiest way to do it, and the title of this video is a job applicant. So it's likely you've already fought with your employer. Maybe you left that employer, or maybe you were fired because they are criminals and they weren't following the law. There is a law, in the United States, there's a federal law that says you have the right to be treated equally at the workplace, which is why they can hire a man who a month later comes to work with high heels and a push-up bra, and now instead of John, her name is Joni, or his name is Joni or something, and the employer cannot bat an eye. The employer cannot do anything other than allow that, because it's been construed that this would be a type of sexual discrimination. I personally don't think it is, but that's sort of the way that the policies have been going. You have a right to be treated equally at work, regardless of your medical status, which includes whether or not you are a human pincushion. There is no evidence that you are a threat to others. There is no evidence that it is a hardship for your company. Those are the only two ways they can fight back, is if it's a hardship and if you are a threat to others. And those are so easy to knock down. Give me a bowling ball, one pin, I'll blindfold myself and I'll still get a strike, because it is, or I'll knock that ball down because it is that pin. It is so easy to argue against. I've got tons of videos on this channel. I've been talking about that for 3 years. When you apply common sense, you'll see that there's no evidence, which is what they need. Just like there needs to be evidence. And I know the police and the courts are not following the law either, but it doesn't negate the principles upon which these laws were created, that there must be evidence in order to implicate you. All right, let's get to the heart of the matter. You've applied for a job, and you see in the job description that you have to have proof of the jab. All right. Not me. I don't work for anybody but you, my lovely healthy Americans. Some people have told me that they just gave them a fake card. And I'm not recommending that. I'm just telling you what some people have done. Same thing with the rabies, as I call it, for your animal. Some people have a rabies certificate for their animal that they have created, and then they can show to the vet. So some people are doing that. And I promise you, there are a large, and I know because people have emailed me, there's a large number of people, of employees, of military, of people that went on the cruise lines, college students, people going in for medical procedures. They're using their card and they're presenting their card. So it seems like that's, for some people, a choice that they want to make. All right. I'm not advocating that. I have not done that, but some people do it and they feel okay because they're like, you know what, I got through that hurdle and this is all a bunch of hogwash, and, I'm just going to throw it right back at them. That's one way of doing it. All right. Another way of doing it is if you go for the job interview, and at the point that they are offering you the job, you do not have a conversation about the jab until you are offered the job. And here's why. Once you are offered the job, they cannot recant, they cannot take that, rescind that job offer without it being in violation of federal and many state laws. Not every state has these laws, but they all have to follow federal law. In California, basically, you're covered, you should be covered for everything because the non-discrimination laws are actually very strict, even though they weren't following them, but we're going to make them follow it. So if they want to have the conversation about the jab, you say to them, is this a job offer? Are you offering me the job? You deflect that conversation until you have the job offer. You want to keep a record of everything that goes on during the interview. You want to make sure that if there's anything that sounds a little bit out of line, like if the interviewer says, well, you know, we expect everyone to be a human pincushion, and if they're really pushing it, or they say something along the lines of, we really don't hire anyone unless they're jabbed, you write that down and you keep that as evidence of discrimination. This is not about you being jabbed or not. It's about your rights of no consent. And if you want to bring in the religious aspect of it, that's my specialty. It's your ethical, moral, or spiritual belief that you are not going to participate in doing this to your body, and your employer is required to accommodate you. Now, an accommodation really does not need to be done because there's nothing at risk here. But I do recommend that you don't have this conversation until they offer you the job. Once they offer you the job, here's the simple sentence. You say, are you in compliance with Title VII? That's it. Are you in compliance with Title VII? I would do this in writing so that you can get their response in writing. That's another thing that I've learned over these years, is that the employer will often say something and then will never follow up with that because it was only spoken, and they do this on purpose. So beware any, outside conversations. You let them know and you ask them, can I record our conversation so that I don't forget anything? And then after that conversation is over, you summarize what was said in an email and you send it to them and you say, I just want to summarize what we talked about. Is there anything here that I missed? Is there anything that needs to be rectified, or can you confirm that this is accurate? This is building your case. This is building your record. Now, ideally, you're not going to have to go through all that. I have many success stories of people being a little bit nervous. I had somebody who was working for an airline in the reservations desk. He did go into the job, so he did go into a call center, but they were putting the pressure on him to get the jab, and he had already been offered the job. So let's dig into this. This is where it gets interesting. Once you have been offered the job, they are required to accommodate you. I would offer the accommodation such as, I will check to see if I'm sick, if I have any symptoms, and if I do, I'll stay home from work. That's the only thing you need to do. You don't need to put on the suffocation device. You certainly don't need to have any thing rammed up your nose. And I just did a video about how to give no consent to that absolutely ridiculous requirement that they're forcing upon you, which is not legal. So I would not consent to any of the testing. I would not consent to the suffocation device. Something that you could say if you wanted to, kind of to just like rub their noses in it a little bit, is say, oh, and if anyone is uncomfortable in my presence, I can stay 6 feet away. Because it's so ridiculous. It's almost like putting it there because it's so ridiculous. So once you are offered the job and they say, here's where you need to upload your card, you can say, are you in compliance with Title VII? And they'll say, and then they likely will give you a form to fill out that you fill out online. Sometimes they'll ask you to submit a paragraph, and it's very simple. And you simply state that it is against my spiritual, moral, or ethical beliefs to participate in a medical intervention in the absence of disease, right? In the absence of disease. That catches them off guard, because they'll say, well, don't you ever go to the dentist? Haven't you ever, it's like, yeah, but that's under my choice and it's not for a job requirement. Now, the other thing people will say, well, Peggy, my job requires me to be drug tested. Yeah, because drugs are illegal. Is it illegal to be not a human pincushion? No, it's not illegal, but they're trying to go in that direction. You're not breaking any laws. So no, it's not the same. It's not the same as a uniform. It's not the same as being drug tested whatsoever. It's not the same as a no smoking policy. Imagine if they had a smoking policy and everyone who worked at that company had to smoke a pack of cigarettes every day. Would you do it? No, it's ridiculous. And it's as ridiculous as becoming a human pincushion. So here's where it gets interesting. They know that they cannot rescind, they cannot take back their job offer without it being in violation of federal law. It's called Title VII. And you know that. And if you want to do a deep dive, you can join me in a one-on-one if you want any consulting, but all of this is available basically to you for free on the public platform here. But if you have a special case that you want me to help with, I do help with a lot of immigration cases. I help a lot with college students. If you feel that you're in a sticky situation and you just want to be coached exactly what to do if there's an interview, or you just want somebody to talk about it with, to give you some moral support, that's what I do. I will leave a link for you below. But friends, you can do it, basically with the information I'm giving you here. Here's a scenario where a woman was offered a job by a school district in Arizona. And this was a couple of years ago, so it was still in the thick of things. But when she said, I'm a pure blood and I don't suffocate myself. And they said, we would like you, the applicant, we would like you to rescind your acceptance of the job offer. How ridiculous is that? We offered you the job and we know that we can't take it back. So instead of us taking it back, we're asking you to not accept it. Well, she came to me and boy, oh boy, did we have a field day. So I helped her with her responses and she went through the entire series after series, because here's what they came back with. So you reply and you say, well, you offered me the job and I've accepted it. So when do I start? I'm ready to start. You gave me a start date. I'm ready. So then they said, well, we can't really have you in the classroom. So you're going to have to, here's all the other jobs that you can apply for that on the website. And I helped her and it's like, oh, no, I am not applying for any other jobs. You've already hired me. Now, if you want to give me another one of those jobs, I will look at it. And if it's comparable with the same, level of responsibility and the same pay, then I will consider it. And that, in the eyes of the law, actually could be construed as an accommodation, just letting you know. There is this little wiggle room where the company can modify things to a certain degree. It needs to be reasonable. And that has never been defined by the court. So I define it as something that is not unreasonable, meaning you can't suddenly give another job at lower pay. Actually, that is in the interpretation of the law. It can't be lower pay, and it can't be, like you can't be the janitor now after being the curriculum director or something. Nothing wrong with being a janitor. It's just different work. And that's not what she was hired for. So she wrote back and said, oh, no, you have to give me a job. I don't apply for another job. So then the next round was they came back and they said, okay, well, we'll give you this job. And this job doesn't come with the signing bonus. And it is, the hourly pay is less. So guess what? Oh, no. I was helping her. And she wrote back and said, no, I get my bonus and I get the same pay that you hired me at. So at every turn, she thwarted this school district's dastardly deeds of trying to prevent her from working because she stood up for her rights. So finally, it all ironed out where she became like the curriculum director. So she was not in the classroom, but she still had the same rate of pay and the same level of responsibility. Friends, they're going to try to thwart you at every stage. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to be educated about that. You can do your own studies. You can just research Title VII, which is the civil rights that has to do with non-discrimination at the workplace. Now, there is a little caveat that only applies at the federal law applies to every employer that has 25 or more employees. So if you are working for a small dentist office or something, you're going to have to go with the state law. And the state law, at least in California, I believe it's 5 employees or maybe it's 15. But the spirit of the law is the same, meaning you can't be discriminated against. And once you educate them on that, it's no different than you having a phone interview. And then once you show up in person, they don't like the color of your skin. And they say, well, we didn't expect you to look like this. And you're like, well, you hired me. So these are what's called protected classes. I personally am not in favor of protected classes. I'm actually not in favor of civil rights laws. I'm in favor of our God-given natural rights that cannot be taken from you. I don't think it has to be categorized into age or gender. There's only two, or skin color or race or accent or ethnicity or marital status or gender identity. I don't even know why we need all of those labels. I'm a human being, you're a human being, and we require to be treated without discrimination, period. But I want to help those of you that feel that you're coming up against these roadblocks every time you see an ad that says must be a human pincushion. No, you don't. And I want you to go up against them. I want you to educate them. I want you to send them to the Healthy American. And I want you to send them this video. And I want you to educate yourself so that you can stand up against this continual harassment, the coercion, the intimidation, the threats. I cannot imagine how nerve-wracking it is. And I am still helping people on a daily basis. So those of you that have college students, I don't really recommend that they go to college, but hey, if that's what they want to do, they have a right to do so in terms of not being discriminated against. I can help you with that. I can help you with these job offers. I can help you with those that are dealing with immigration. There are a lot of people that are coming to this country because of religious freedom. A lot of Canadians are coming here wanting to be Americans, and they're going through their I'll have to do this in another video, but they're going through their immigration protocols and they have to have medical examinations and so forth. And the doctors are ignorant. The attorneys are ignorant in terms of what's required in order to remain a pureblood. And I'm not an attorney, but I'm an expert on these laws, and I would love to help you or those that you know that need my help. All right, I've got tons of stuff over at thehealthyamerican.org. I've got some standalone programs if you want to do some self-education. And of course, I've got hundreds of free videos here on this channel, and I'm so grateful that you are a part of it. Friends, it's always a pleasure. My goal is to bring light at the end of the tunnel, right? I do not want you to be in the spin cycle. I want you to feel that there is a way. Oh, by the way, there is a way. There is a way forward. And that is, let me share my screen over here. We're going to the end of COVID. Oh, I said it. There, I said it. The end of cooties. I am a presenter in this program. I've had interviews with wonderful presenters that are a part of this, like Dr. Sam Bailey and her husband. I would love to interview Dr. Mark. I've had Dr. Amanda Vollmer on my program. I've had the one who's putting this all together, Alec, on my program. I've had Dr. Andy Kaufman on my program. So I'm a speaker here as well. And I am talking all about how it doesn't matter whether or not 99.9% of the people get sick or die. And it matters to me because I don't want people to get sick, but it really doesn't even matter. What matters is that you have rights that cannot be taken from you. And I want you to understand how to stand up for yourself. So I have a link for you below for all these goodies. Thank you so much for being on board. I think that will be my 2 videos for tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow. I've got some other breaking news that I want to share with you. And I want to continue to remind you that there are brighter days ahead. I promise you that. Do not give in to the doom and gloom. That's exactly what feeds evil. Evil feeds on fear. Evil will self-destruct. It carries the seeds of destruction within. And goodness that comes from God is a creative power. We need to create a better way. And that's what I'm here for. And I'm so grateful to have all of my lovely, healthy Americans on board. I'll see you soon, everybody. Make sure you're on my Substack and my newsletter as well.